Welcome to Performance Anxiety, everybody. This week I'm joined by Matt Wilson of Matt Wilson and his Orchestra. He tells me all about meeting up with his orchestra, how he writes for the harp, and why there are no drums. We also go deeper. Matt tells me about the time he and his brother Dan of Semisonic found a record that his dad had made, which surprised everybody. Following his brother to Harvard and being in Conan O'Brien's class, and forming the band Trip Shakespeare. What's behind that name, by the way? And what's his connection to MST3K, also known as Mystery Science Theater 3000? Go to minneapolismatt.com to get the new album and find all the social media links. Follow us at performanceanx.com. And let's get into Matt Wilson of Matt Wilson and his Orchestra.
You're Mark Shea. I'm Matt Wilson. We're talking on performance anxiety.
Well, thank you for doing this. This is awesome. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, of course.
I got a chance to listen to the new album, and before we get too deep into that, I want to know more about how you got into music and how you started your career. So you're from Minnesota. You're born in St. Louis Park?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so was it a musical family? I know you and your brother Dan are both professional musicians, have been for a long time. But were your parents really into music, and did they start you out playing instruments at a young age or anything?
Well, my dad, we kind of discovered my dad's a pretty nerdy guy. Doctor, very serious.
Okay.
But at some point, we discovered a record that he had made when he was in high school with three other people.
Oh, wow.
And it was called The Four Lords, which is such a great name.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And he was just a very serious guy. And he had this one really sexy part in the middle of this song called Shaboom, where he's like, every time I look at you, it's really...
Yes, that's a great song.
Now every time I look at you, something is on my mind. If you do what I want you to, baby, we'd be so fine. Oh, life could be a dream.
Yeah, it is. It was really great, and their version was really good too. It was just like one of those things where they just had a piano player and three guys, and they just went in and put it down to some kind of record, straight to a record.
Oh, so kind of like Jack White does at Third Man right now. You can go into a booth and record straight to vinyl. Straight to vinyl. Yeah, that's what they did.
That is so. Awesome. Anyway, that's our little musical connection. But really, we had, I think, about 9 LPs in our house, and 3 of them were corny Christmas albums,
Oh, man. Don't say Ray Conniff, because I love Ray Conniff. That's not corny.
No, I every single one of those, of course, I cherished all those records. They all were, a source of huge mystery and wonder to me. But Dan and I were really the only ones, and in a way, Dan is 2 years older than me, and I just followed him around, all the time. And he was the one who was into it, and I just kind of did what Dan did because he was the older brother, and and turned out great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he led us in the direction of music.
So, did you start off on guitar, piano, and how old were you when you started?
Well, I have a sister too, and we all took piano, but Dan was kind of the only one that really took off with piano. He was had this kind of true musician depth to his talent.
Okay.
And so I kind of dropped out of that. And then when it came time to, in school, they asked you to pick an instrument to play in the band,
Yep.
And so that was in 5th grade. So I was about 11, and I chose the drums. And
wow.
I'm so glad I chose the drums. I just had this sense that it was the only one that was cool,
Yeah. Out of those instruments you could choose from. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the only one. And so I was really glad. I feel like that was one of my great instinctive choices in my life, to pick drums. And then, so that just led off to rock music, and
now, did you and Dan, were you playing in bands together when you were younger?
Yeah, we did. We played in a couple bands in high school, and then as Dan was heading off to college, he was 2 years in front of me. We were immediately planning how we were going to have a band when we were in school.
Oh, cool.
And then I went out to the same school as him, just following him the whole way.
Wow.
My whole life,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. And he was such a always such a supportive brother. He truly was. And we started a band out, and we had a couple bands that we were in over the course of the 2 years that we overlapped out there, and it was super fun. Really good times.
So when you guys were young, and in Minneapolis, you guys warmed up for bands like Husker Du and the Replacements.
Yeah. So this is when I was a drummer. Yeah, it was amazing. There was really kind of something going on. There was even though it was just local guys, when my band was called The Panic, and I was a drummer, and our thing was kind of it was just kind of a thing of the time, but like to play like as fast as that we were trying to amaze people with how fast we played.
Right.
But it wasn't like jazz fast. It was like straight rock fast.
Oh, yeah, just blazing.
Yeah. So that was the thing, and so, but it was really when we warmed up for the Replacements at 7th Street, it was the club downtown, and that we could tell, we really felt like we were in the presence of that felt like gods to us, so we knew that there was something going on. I mean, it was just like there was a feeling happening, and they were really cool. They were really great. One thing I remember, just an odd thing I remember, is Paul just talking to the rest of his band, and I was kind of overhearing and maybe like looking off to the side, pretending to be, setting up my drums or something. Yeah. And he said, "You guys want to go get some vittles?" And I remember just going, "Vittles? Who says vittles?" It's like, I got to start using that word, vittles. That's so cool.
That's the secret. You got to use obscure terms for food.
Yeah. So
was that the first inkling you had that maybe this was something that you wanted to do for a career, or was that earlier or later?
No, by that point, I already knew that, I wanted to be a drummer. I was really kind of thought I'd be like a jazz drummer or, some kind of cool drummer, but I already wanted that,
Okay. And then you went off to Harvard.
Yeah.
And so you studied English. So you knew you wanted to be a musician. Was that your non-music plan? Just like a fallback?
Yeah, it was just, basically, number one, I wanted to be out there with Dan.
Right.
And then music had the least of all the least requirements of all the courses you could take. I took non-honors English. Really a sad waste of a fancy education.
But now you're kind of like the Conan O'Brien of music, though.
Yeah, Conan O'Brien was in my class.
Oh, really? That is awesome. Someone said, "Oh, Matt, Conan says hello," and I didn't even remember him. I wasn't like, because I just wasn't aware of him at the time. As Conan would say, you're not the only one that doesn't remember him.
Right. Yeah.
You guys continued playing while you were attending Harvard, and that's where you met John Munson and Elaine Harris, right? No,
John was waiting back in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
And I had already, while Dan and I were playing out there, I had already played in a band. I took a year off and I played in a band that had John Munson in it.
Oh, that E. Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was pretty eye-opening to me. That was a whole new level, and my, I was all that much more serious about being a drummer at that point and kind of going crazy with it. So, yeah, so that happened. But we met Elaine out in Boston. She was going to school there too.
Okay.
She had answered an ad. We just had put up posters for someone to play drums. We kind of made it an odd, enticing ad. And this was after Dan had left.
Oh, okay.
And so I started this band called the Cratchit Family out there.
That's a great name.
It was a very weird band. We had 3 drummers, and there was no drum set. They all played like these, prescribed parts. It was just standing up, all playing the drums. It was pretty heavy. It was kind of cool.
Man, did you record any of that stuff?
Yeah, and I'd be happy to share it with you. Some of it is kind of amazing in its way.
Getting sleepy before your time.
Now, this is one of the coolest things about doing the show to me is hearing about other stuff that not too many people know about, but that you're so enthusiastic about. I love hearing that kind of stuff.
It's like listening to this band is like looking like inside, like under a rock and seeing like these odd bugs from this other world crawling around. You'll hear what I mean.
Oh, I can't wait. All right. So how did you guys end up forming Trip Shakespeare?
So then, I
this weird ad.
dropped out of school. Oh, excuse me?
So did it have anything to do with this weird ad? Finding Elaine?
Well, it's just like, I dropped out of school. Elaine had graduated. I convinced her to come back to Minneapolis and try to start something up.
Wow.
Yeah, and she did. She did because she liked this kind of rock music, and so then we tried out a bunch of bass players, most of which were not interested at all in what we were doing, but one guy, John Munson, that I had played with before.
Right. And
I really doubted him because I think he was a newbie or something when I first played with him, or I underestimated him. He tried out and he was amazing. And, he was amazing and so different. And he added this whole dimension and we became a trio. Then we got a percussionist. That guy dropped out. We added Dan, and then
So how did you guys come up with the name Trip Shakespeare? What's behind that?
Oh, we thought it was really funny. We tried a million names. It was just some terrible names. I would say maybe not the strongest naming process that we had going on.
So I heard a rumor, and you tell me if this is true or not, that it was originally supposed to be Kirk Shakespeare.
I think we tried every mix of all that stuff. Yeah, because I loved Star Trek.
Oh, who doesn't, man?
And I loved Shakespeare. So those are those were both interests of mine. We considered. I can't. I'm too embarrassed to even say some of the dumb names
Nobody's listening. It's okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right. So you did the first album, Applehead Man, as a trio, then, right?
Yep.
So then Dan, did Dan join after Applehead Man?
Yeah. Okay. As we put it out, he played in the first show as we released it.
Okay. And then
the thing about that was that I had a very I was mainly a drummer, and so I had this very kind of like twinkly kind of guitar thing that wasn't very thunderous. It didn't have a lot of substance to it.
Okay.
It was interesting, but Dan could really play guitar, and so he had this kind of a thunder to his playing, and it just transformed us immediately. And it was like all of a sudden we had like jet engines, under our little rig that this rickety rig that we had.
So did you guys all contribute to the songwriting in Trip Shakespeare, or was it like you'd come in with one song, Dan would come in with another?
No, it was more like the common thread was that I wrote all the words.
Okay.
And then for the most part, and then Dan and I would write the songs together.
Okay.
To whatever degree, yeah.
Okay. And then you recorded an album with one of my favorite album titles ever, Are You Shakespeareanced? That I love that. That is so awesome. I read that you recorded that live in the studio without any headsets.
Some of it, yeah. Some of it.
That's crazy. That's how did that work? I mean, that seems to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just like being in the basement. Okay. You know, it's no harder than that.
Wow, man! So you guys wrote a really cool song, and I have a question about this. Toolmaster of Brainerd.
Yeah.
And it's described as a song that insanely links Dairyland folklore with the enduring rock myth of Guitar Hero supremacy.
Toolmaster of Brainerd. Inside his case was a Gibson disaster. Toolmaster of Brainerd. He played guitar like a master, but faster. Toolmaster of Brainerd. Oh, he came to town on a charter bus. Too young and sweet to be.
But I've also heard that there's a link with MST3K, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Do you know about that? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, well,
because I'm a huge MST3K fan.
I know. I'm not really a huge fan of it. I mean, but I'm quite aware of it, and I've, sat through many a show of it, and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I'm not a student of it.
You're not a Misty.
And no, there's no reference to that in Toolmaster. I don't think I was aware of them at that time when I wrote that song. Sorry.
So they must have used it, or the some variant of the lyrics.
Yeah, I think that they were quite aware of us, and we went and visited them one time and stuff like that. But I can't honestly say that I knew about them when that song was written.
Okay, I think if my memory serves, and I'm a Misty, but I'm not a diehard, that I believe they use a variant of the lyrics in one of their episodes. I'll have to check that out. I don't remember which one it was.
I know that they were very sweet, and I think that they were, had a soft spot for the group.
So after that, you guys got signed to A&M, and so this was what, like the later 80s?
Yeah, it must have been at the very end, maybe 89.
Okay, so was that
80, something like that?
Was that a big change from recording your earlier albums? Did you? Yeah. You got headsets for the studio and all?
Yeah, headsets all around. Huge
headsets for everybody.
No, it was really, really quite a bit different. So for that, the first one that we made was Across the Universe. Mm-hmm. And we did that at Paisley Park.
Oh, wow.
And so that was very exciting to be out there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Prince was hovering around. Not talking to us, not really acknowledging us at all. But he was there, and there's kind of a catwalk around that goes around in the main kind of atrium when you come in, and every once in a while we'd see Prince kind of like literally like dancing out of a door in the catwalk and like making his way down to some office also on the catwalk in a coral colored one piece, swirly bell bottom, like shiny silk thing. Looking amazing and like fully made up to like completely done up every single day.
I can see, that's how I imagine he did everything completely in that like purple full-length coat that he had and dancing everhere. I imagine that's how he did everything.
The dancing everywhere was literally kind of a thing. That was true.
That's amazing. And so the label was really behind you guys. I heard that the president of the label was going to your gigs. We talked with him and stuff like that. I think he came to at least one. That's
probably
awesome.
I think it was Al Cafaro. I can't remember all the names, but yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
It was amazing. There was a heady time. We made those two records, that Applehead Man and Are You Shakespeareanced, and we really wanted to we wanted to like be big. We wanted everyone to see us, you know. So that was definitely no, you know, we were ambitious, but it wasn't working. Like we weren't getting attention, and these a couple of like a businessman and a lawyer came to us, and they said they could get all the label people into the same room at the same time, maybe multiple times, and then we would get signed.
Okay.
And at that point, there was kind of no downside for us. It would, you know, it would cost us like a percentage of something that we, you know, would probably never have.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so we said yes, and we said, okay, let's do it. And then these guys did it. They got a whole bunch of label people to CBGBs.
Oh, there you go.
And it was we had the night of our lives. We were so pumped up.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, and we just, you know, we totally killed it. Like, you know, just sweating after the show, and just thrilled. And so that went really well. And then we had a show like that in Minneapolis too that had a slightly different cast of label people. But, you know, there's not that many of them, and they all know what's going on, and they all talk among each other. And then I think we had one other gig like that where also it was all prearranged to kind of get these people all in the same room at the same time. And so then the jealousy between them, you know, and all their competition.
It works to your advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got signed. And when we got signed, we went with A&M. We had a couple choices that were basically the same exact thing.
Okay.
And when A&M, when we got our contracts from them, they all of the blanks where the band name was supposed to be in there, they all said Soundgarden. And so like that was, they had just copied and, you know, pasted like, they must have signed Soundgarden like a week before or something.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, one of my favorite Soundgarden albums is Louder Than Love off their first A&M release. So that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So they didn't bother giving you original contracts. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you signed with A&M, and Across the Universe got really great reviews, but you guys weren't that happy with it?
Can I tell you a romantic story about the one-eyed lady in France? I guess the king decreed that all the various princes should try to get inside her pants.
So along came a St. Paul dandy. He was 6.5 feet tall. He said,
well, you know, I wasn't very happy with it at the time, but now I love it. And so I know that I was just, you know, so it's like if someone takes a picture of you and you look at it right away and you're like, no, that's not what how I want to look at, you know, and then later on, if you look at it, you know, 10 years from then, you're like, oh, it's great. It's like, I look fine. You know, it's like, that's me.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had built up and I don't know, and now I love it. I think it's great. But at the time I was very frustrated with it. I just wasn't kind of ready to just enjoy myself. I think how I really was that so I was a little imbalanced in that way, but it was fine. I think then, you know, the next one was Lulu that we did, and Lulu has kind of this dynamic enormity to it. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That Across the Universe is lovely, but it feels a little bit like a you know, like a music box that you open and it's, you know, it's not, it doesn't rock out really that much. It's kind of got a controlled studio thing to it.
Okay.
And it's great. There's a lot about it that I just completely love. But then, you know, I saw the band as this kind of wild rock experience, and I think we got it more on the next one. They both the records have a good thing, but Lulu has more of the like kind of full range of the band, the swell.
again. There's no place for a living man. I ride around on an ice cream bicycle, dreamsicle in my hand. Once over the park again, I sing, Grandpapa, do you well? Wait for day to be night again, ringing that foolish bell. Your mouth is my apartment in the evening. I sleep.
Was the band a little heavier live? With it?
Yeah. We went from very, very light and very kind of whispery to very, I would say, pretty heavy.
Okay.
Thundery.
So did you guys?
We had that.
Were you guys on the road a lot for Across the Universe and Lulu? Were you extensive tours?
Yeah. And one thing about us, I think that we didn't really have big amps and kick-ass gear when we were starting out on our first major label thing. And so I think that we had only been seen maybe as like more of a kind of miniaturized, twinkly kind of thing than we really were at heart.
Yeah.
And then after we made that first record, the label bought us amps and stuff like that. And all of a sudden we had Marshall amps instead of PV crap. And we were like, why didn't we do this, 10 years ago? What is wrong with us? And because all of a sudden we understood like the world of, enormity and stuff like that. And so then we were crushing in this little twingly band that we had been. All of a sudden, was a lot heavier, and it kind of came into our true selves, our fantasy of what we thought we were.
And that was what the later 80s, early 90s. Early
90s, yeah.
Okay.
That, we when we were like kind of coming into our own, really, and that was when we made Lulu.
And that's when Nirvana kind of changed everything.
Yes, yeah.
Did that have an effect on the band? I mean, because the sound isn't, it's definitely it's an alternative sound, but it's not as heavy, at least not the studio albums, as like a Nirvana.
True. Yeah, it did. I think it really did. I mean, it was amazing what Nirvana kind of did in a way. They were like a neutron bomb. They just kind of flattened the countryside. All the heavy metal bands were just decimated. They were just like, it's like all of their theories were suddenly disproven.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when they came out, I was a big metal guy. I was big into Megadeth and old, I guess Metallica at that time, and that was my thing. I was big into heavy, and I'd never really got that big into Nirvana. I love Mother Love Bone, and I went the Pearl Jam route up until their third album. Then they lost me. But I mean, it just, instead of with all the metal bands, it was just who could play faster and faster and faster and faster and more technical. And then they just went the exact opposite.
It's punk.
Yeah, exactly. And they went just raw, and they prove you can play slow and still be great. Yeah.
They were. Yeah, and so I think in a way, everyone was affected by them for sure, and we were quite aware of them, and we felt in a way less relevant all of a sudden, or like we were kind of, not that we ever were relevant, but we felt like maybe we were starting to like prove ourselves, or that maybe our time was about to come, and then all of a sudden everything shifted in that direction.
And it's a shame.
That grungy direction.
Yeah, and it's a shame because that sound, the sound of Trip Shakespeare, kind of a few years later started to come back. With bands like Crash Test Dummies and Semisonic. To be honest, it's you just, unfortunately, I think the timing was just off with that. It's such a shame. Yeah,
and yet it's like. It was still all very, beautiful in its way,
And the music is great. I love it. But so Lulu was the last album for Trip Shakespeare. And is that when you started playing with the Flops, also known as the Twilight Hours?
Yeah, like there was a gap there where I made my own record while kind of Semisonic was flying up into the sun.
Yeah.
I made a record called Burnt White and Blue.
Okay, yeah.
And that was kind of that was, a labor of love, and it took a long time to make that record, but that was me drumming, so I was getting back to, like, this was my chance to kind of say how drumming should be, and and how I felt like songs could be, like, it was just kind of my chance to, like,
do your thing.
Lay down my idea of how things could be.
Right. And you, instead of just doing words, you had the chance to write the music and lay it down exactly how you wanted.
Yeah.
It's so demeaning, projecting, screening for the films of the child director. Try to seem like an artist with a dream, but you only mean to bleed it down.
So, let's see. So you've also contributed to some of Semisonic stuff, like All About Chemistry, and you've joined them on stage, and then let's see, was it 2003 Trip Shakespeare Reunited?
Yeah. We've had a couple of shows that we got back together here and there.
That must be fun. That must be great to revisit all that.
It is. It's wonderful. It's amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely. I wish. I know that John and I, especially John, he wants to tour. He wants to get a tour with Trip Shakespeare, and
wow.
I would love to do that too. And I think that we could get Elaine to do it as well.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome. So then, at what point did you decide to form Matt Wilson and his orchestra?
Well, so then as more years went by, in which I had a group called the Twilight Hours.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that was me and John Munson, bass player, from all the way back when we were 19. We played in E. Brown. And then we did that for, I don't know, maybe at least 10 years, I'd say, something like that. Okay. And made a couple records.
Maybe you'll be alright. Maybe you don't know. Rain clouds come around, maybe gonna.
And then, but John always kind of wanted to keep rocking. He wanted to rock harder, and you can hear my voice. It's kind of gentle and cloudy a little bit. That's the sound of my voice. And so I can't really cut through electric guitars that well, and so I had been kind of aching to go in a different direction than John. John wanted the Twilight Hours to be his rock band.
Yeah.
So we kind of parted ways there, because I wanted to be competing with my voice with more acoustic instruments, where my cloudy voice could come through with some bass on the bottom and some twinkling on top, and my cloudy mid-range thing in the middle.
Right, and not totally destroy your voice trying to compete with the electric guitars.
Yeah, very much.
So the band. All right, so the band is you, Quillen Rowe of the Rowe Family Singers, Jacques Waite, and I'm gonna butcher it. Is it Fela Tracy or Fala?
Yeah, Fela.
Fela. All right, I got it right the first time.
Hey. Yeah.
Awesome. So
Rose can call her Faye.
So I'll stick with Fela for now until she's a guest on the show. But
yep.
So how did you guys all get together and form the orchestra? Well,
in a way, John Munson he's a great guy, and he's also kind of a hub. He's a gatherer. People gather around him. He brings people together.
Okay.
Every holiday season, he has a big show where he brings in people from all different parts of the music community in Minneapolis, and has a giant show. And so he also likes the woods, and so he has also like kind of there's another gathering in the summertime way up in Ely, Minnesota, like right up on the edge of Canada.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It's at this campground, and so every year he does that. And one time he finally like got me to come up there because I was, I'm not an outdoorsy guy.
Okay,
but I liked it. I loved it, and one group that I saw that I had seen before, but it was so long ago, was the Rowe Family Singers. And those guys have just such an amazing groove. And there's no drums, but it's just Quillen is just a kind of a machine, a real rhythm ace. And as a drummer, I heard that and I was like, okay. I just noted it, I wasn't like trying to form a band by any means. I wasn't thinking that way. And then on that same time out there, I saw Fela, who I'd actually collaborated with a little bit one other time, but I saw her playing and I was like, oh, that sounds so beautiful, and I was just noting these things. And then just over time, when I got back to Minneapolis, I started thinking of a group that could maybe we would just play my songs, my historical canon, plus, some of my favorite covers. Maybe that would be like a thing that I could do, just to kind of like, hey, play my songs, in a low key setting that I can sing through.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And so we got together for a rehearsal and recorded it. And I remember listening to it on the way home and just thinking, wow, this is so sunshiny. And it's just kind of, and there's a sound there, right there. That was just, that group of people. We had a sound. And then the next time we got together, we did a little bit of singing. And I was really delighted to hear that we totally had a sound going there too. Those three of us. Meanwhile, and then part of the group as well is a guy who's in the Twilight Hours, the lead guitar player in the Twilight Hours, Jacques Waite. And John Munson had once told me that his favorite version of this kind of solo band that I had was when Jacques had to jump in on bass.
Oh, okay.
And so that stuck in my head as well. And so I asked Jacques to sit in with this group, and it just had a sound. And so we went with it. And then after a while, I was so excited about it, I couldn't help but doing what I always do, which is start bringing in songs,
That's
songs. Yeah.
And what I love about it is that the harp adds a completely different dimension that obviously you don't hear every day.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to write music with the addition of a harp?
Not in the least. Harps are amazingly versatile in their way. They go down super low, really low, and they go up really high. You can just kind of do anything. Fela makes it seem like you could do anything on.
Yeah.
I think I fall into this trap a lot, and a lot of other people do too, where they're just like, oh, harp is really cool. And it's like, well, actually it's Fela.
Gentle melody, fluorescent light, and there's no one on the floor at night. Now my world rising in my throat.
It's like she makes it sound cool because it's just like guitar. It's like if a great guitar player, was the first person you ever listened to playing guitar, you'd be like, guitar is really cool. Yeah. But if it's some shitty guy, some shitty guitar player, then you're like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Why does anybody do this?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Fela. But anyway, so yeah, there's nothing hard about it at all. And it just makes everything sound beautiful. And she is a natural arranger, and she's a true musician. She's one of those people where other musicians like me feel insecure around her because we know that we're not real musicians, and she's the real deal. She thinks that way. She sees the whole matrix. Everything.
So you started this in what, 2015? Was that you wrote the first song? I can't return in 2015.
Right, and that was before the orchestra started. And the orchestra is like a year and not even a year and a half old. Right now.
Because I was reading a quote from you that said that you wrote that song in 2015, and that was kind of your return to songwriting, and things just started to pour out of you for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So you weren't writing anything at that point, or before that point then?
Yeah, I had the Twilight Hours were making our second record.
Yeah. And
I became really obsessed with producing it. And sometimes I have trouble multitasking.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
And so when I'm in kind of production mode, my writing kind of shuts down a little bit.
Okay.
Sometimes, to a certain degree.
Okay. And you start writing all these songs, and you got, let's see, the album was recorded in your home studio, but mixed, but it was mixed by John Fields, right? Who did, he's worked with Soul Asylum, Miley Cyrus, Jonas Brothers, Switchfoot. I'm just reading up the credits here, Rooney.
Right.
That's a pretty impressive list. And this is my complete ignorance of how this whole process works. So you record it at your home studio, you produce it. So what is the mixer doing? What is John adding to the process?
Okay, yeah. So, it's, I record it, and then at that point, like, I've got this bundle of sticks. And I shove it over into, him. And then he has to build something out of it.
Okay, that's I can totally get that analogy then.
Yeah.
So when he's working on that, what kind of input are you giving him? I mean, you have the sound in your head already, or is he giving you things you're like, I like this one?
Yeah, really. Like what I would give to him, you'd put it up and it would sound like a song. It'd be like, it would sound like something. But I'd give it to him and just let him go crazy on it. And
that's awesome.
And then, and he would return with something, and it would be 90% there every time.
Wow.
Really, like, it was never something where I'd be like, okay, that's, you're in 180 wrong direction. It was always right.
That's
right away.
Fantastic.
And so then I would just like say maybe a little more verb on that, a little less verb on this part, add some rain to the end, just like little ideas like that. But his instinct, I didn't want to screw with it very much, because he's just, he's smart and thoughtful and attentive.
And he's got a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
So kind of knows what he's doing. So
yeah, but you know what? I don't even care about his track record. It's really just, it's his ears. It's like, it's just every time he came up, it's like, it was just right. Like.
That's fantastic. Well, that, to me, that means that whenever you met with him, spoke with him, he was listening and he knew what you were looking for. So that's fantastic. I was listening to the album again today, and I got to tell you that I like the album. The album's great, but there's certain songs that really stand out to me. And the first one is Decent Guy. That is such a great track. I love that. But Come to Nothing.
Thank you. I agree. That's one of my faves.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was listening to that and like, man, I can completely relate to this track. I really like it. And Come to Nothing, which is, I think, the latest single off of it.
Yep.
That's such a sweet, beautiful track. I love that song.
Thank you.
Come to nothing. Come to nothing.
The whole
Those are my faves too.
The whole album has got this great, like, it's kind of folky, but more than like a storytelling tradition of folk, not like the not Americana, not protesty folk. It's fun. It's storytelling. That's what makes the album stand out to me, as opposed to any other of the quieter albums that I've heard recently. Even like guys like Tom Morello putting out his folk stuff. That's all protesty folk. That's angry folk. I don't always want that. I like what you're doing with this. It's just it's not angry stuff. It's you've got some great harmonies, like the harmonies. Petty Thief, the song Petty Thief. That they remind me of like Beach Boys, Mamas and Papas kind of harmonies, and it brings back a lightheartedness in music that I think has kind of been hidden for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's I think of it as songs. I feel like what I'm trying to uncover is just songs with like melodious chords, it's difficult to say, but I mean, it's songs that you could play at the piano, that your grandma could play at the piano and sing the melody and understand it, or that someone could show up at a campfire with a guitar and like a song like that, where it just kind of, the song can like get up and stand on its own feet and walk, because it's a real song has that sort of thing. It's not a groove. It's not built around like a loop.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a song. That's I don't know. It might be I'm not sure I'm communicating very well, but that's kind of my vision in a way, or whatever. That's what I am trying to uncover.
They're catchy. They're not super complex sounding. I mean, I don't know the songwriting process or mixing or producing any of that, but they sound like just good, catchy songs, like Beach Boys, Mamas and Papas stuff. That stuff. It's stuff that sticks in your head. But your whole career's been kind of like that. I mean, even Shakespeare, except for that band where you were playing as fast as you can. Everything else has been kind of good songwriting that tells a story. And that's what I love about it.
The band, when I was playing super fast, that was like me like pecking on the inside of my egg to get out of my egg. And then the rest has been, like taking flight and stuff.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. So do you guys have any plans to tour to support the album? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We've been playing a lot of shows. Recently ruined my voice in a church where the whole band is flu, every kind of. So we've been playing a lot of shows, and getting better because of it. And so we're going to just always kind of keep playing as many shows as we can. Sometimes it's hard for us to book shows. Quillen plays a lot of shows with the Rowe Family Singers. And
oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So the only thing that stops us, we all want to do it as much as we can, is just getting our schedules together.
Now, in this band, are you playing drums or are you playing guitar?
Oh, guitar and piano.
Okay, so there's no drums in this, really?
No drums.
So was that a conscious progression? As a drummer, you decided not to have any drums in your band?
Yeah. It's better for my voice, I think. It's funny because I feel like it's easier for me to communicate for some reason. These shows, that we've been having are just, I get that sense of reaching people.
Okay.
That, that I feel like it's been a while since I've been kind of reaching people, but now it's kind of a consistent thing. And I feel like part of it is peeling away all that kind of, guitar. I love how guitars sound and stuff like that, but it's maybe not the best for the kind of music that I'm trying to play. And
so it sounds like you're trying to be more intimate.
Yeah, and communicate better. And I want people to hear the detail in my voice, and to definitely to hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like these things that I craft so carefully. I feel like it's important to get those things across, and sometimes they can't get across when there's a whole lot of wailing howling, guitars and stuff like that.
Or drums.
Yeah, or drums for sure.
Like I had just mentioned, your entire career has been about fantastic songwriting, very interesting storytelling lyrics. And it's been a blast to go back and revisit some of the Trip Shakespeare stuff and listen to the new album, which I highly recommend to anybody. It's so different from a lot of what's out there because it's more of an intimate sounding album, and it's not loud. It's not bombastic. It's quiet and beautiful and a very, very wonderful change of pace to what's normally in my rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find the album? How do they follow the band? How can they follow you? And the album will probably be released around
March
the time
20th.
All right, so it's coming out March 20th. Oh my God, some bug just flew in my face. How can people buy it? How can they follow you guys on social media and see where you're playing?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. My website is called minneapolismatt.com. Okay. That's where you can find me. There's a couple other Matt Wilsons out there. They won't cease and desist. Being
How dare
Matt Wilson.
They?
Yeah, I know. What? But so my site is called, I know, you said it.
I did.
So my site is called minneapolismatt.com.
Okay.
And that's got everything. That'll have like every single way it'll have. You can also look at videos that our band has done, and they're Minneapolis Matt on YouTube.
Okay. And then the website will have the links to all the social media accounts, the Instagram,
all that stuff. Yep, all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, man, look, I really appreciate you spending so much time with me. It's been a blast talking with you. I'm dying to hear that 3-drum stuff. And
oh my God! Okay, yeah, all right. So make sure, just text me and keep bothering me. I mean, I'll get it for you.
I will. I'm going to text you as soon as we're done here, and awesome. I'm going to keep track of the touring schedule because I don't know if you have any plans to come out east, but if you play anywhere near DC, I'm there. I'm dying to see this show. I want to hear that harp live.
Awesome! Yeah. It's she delivers live. She's for real.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you spending so much time with me and talking about your career and explaining the process of creating this beautiful new album.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It makes me want to fly away. When we talk about the world today, we were walking with your sister Susan. You said your father was an astronaut. He used to fly around.